Welcome to the Slade Ham Experiment. I'm Slade Ham, usually coming to you from my midnight spaceship, my multicolored late night abode. But tonight, depending on when you're watching this or listening to this, I'm coming to you from the great province of Ontario. If you're American, they're our friends to the great white north. If you're not American, they're just Canadian. They're wonderful people, and I'm here in Toronto between one fern. So there's a lot to talk about here. I've been working out a brand new hour, which I've kind of been awkwardly developing on this show. When I have ideas for things I think are funny, I kind of riff about them here and see what comes out, and then I write a lot of that down. Then I try to take it to the stage. This is the week I'm taking it to the stage, and we'll talk a little bit about set development if you're a stand-up comic. If you're not a stand-up comic, maybe later is going to get a little more in the weeds. I tend to do that. You just have to deal with it. If you're Canadian and you're just joining me because you've come to one of my shows this week, or you're watching this because you came to one of my shows next week, time travel's weird in the podcast world. So if you're one of my Canadian friends, I say this sincerely, welcome, and thank you for being just generous, kind, good-hearted people. There's a shortage of niceness in the world, and I think that reason is because you Canadians have taken it all. That's my only whack on the forehead for you is that you're too nice. You have hoarded up too much niceness, and it's awkward. I've said this, but I've been heckled one time in Canada, and I've been coming up here since 2008 probably. And it wasn't even a heckle. It was a guy in the front row who was talking to his girlfriend. He said something. I think they were ordering drinks. And I just heard him. And I was probably wound up and high-strung and, whatever. I wasn't in a great place in my life back in those years. But I remember just like, what? I went, what? And he just goes, I'm so sorry. And that was our entire interaction. It's remarkably friendly people. I'm going to head on down to the Loblaws, bud. Grab some ketchup chips. Stop and get some Timbits. I was going to see if you wanted anything, bud. Ketchup chips. There's a bunch of Canadian-only food that I need someone. Is there anyone in Canada who just wants to send me? It could be an annual care package. Doesn't have to be. I wish it was daily. I'd like to wake up to Timbits every morning. Some Tim Hortons coffee and donuts. Timbits are they're the donut holes of the Tim Hortons. And the Tim Hortons is the Dunkin' Donuts of Canada, except they're good. It's great coffee. They're good donuts. It's like all the best stuff from a Starbucks or a Dunkin' Donuts without having to deal with either one of those entities. Plus, really nice Canadian people working there. And it's cheaper because the dollar's worth way more than it should be against the Canadian dollar right now. And that sounds like a good thing unless you're up here making Canadian money, which I happen to be. So when I cash it in for American dollars, I imagine that's going to decrease a little bit. Nobody makes an adjustment for the difference in whatever. Stupid. Anyway, just bitching about my money. It's really been. I've been coming out here since I'm here in October, which is the most perfect time to be in Ontario ever. I'm probably gonna do a Slade Runner about this. I've got so much footage of the foliage here, and I don't care who you are. Something deep inside of you should move when you see entire forests changing colors. I need to update my creative cloud. My computer's yelling at me. I can't. You go look at the footage of it. I've already got one episode from back in Ottawa a few years ago. I've got tons of stuff. I went wandering around this morning. Let me preface that by saying what I did earlier this week. Toronto is a wonderful pedestrian city. If you lived here, there would be zero reason for a car. I live in Houston, where if you don't have a car, you're basically dead. You can't get provisions. You can't go anywhere. It's impossible. If you try to walk, the heat will evaporate you just about 9 months out of the year. And then the other 3, it's probably raining or hurricane season or a flood, or there's Mexican chickens in the neighborhood, or there are 1,000 different things that just or everything's just 20 miles away. It's even by car in Houston. No matter where you're going, it's 20 minutes away. So here in Toronto, they got a wonderful subway system. It's the Young Line, the Bloor Line, makes a nice little U. It dips down to Union Station, gets you downtown. All your main stuff is on these certain corridors. All of the neighborhoods are reachable and accessible by public transit. I'm sure there's Uber drivers here. I know they do that, but it's so simple to move around without them. Every time I get off the plane at the Toronto airport, is that Pearson? I could take an Uber. It would be way quicker. But that's how I acclimate myself to being back here. I jump on they got a quick little rocket train, takes you down to one of the stations, then you get off, change trains. You bring your luggage like you're a New Yorker. And if you're in New York, you understand that kind of stuff. This is only foreign to people like me who only know cities with cars. I've been watching these Torontonians. That's what we can go with. Torontians? No, that sounds too much like tarantula. Torontarians? No. All right, Torontonians. That sounds right. It's probably, if y'all didn't pick that, you should have. Torontons? Anyway, where I'm staying in Toronto, right around the corner of Yonge Street and Eglinton, and there's a lot going on. It's bustling. There's still a Toys R Us that's open that perplexes me. I thought they all shut down or something, but there's one with big sign, unless they closed down many, many years ago before the pandemic and then never took their sign down. But I see people coming in. Anyway, the point is that it's a bustling area. It's been under construction since about 2008 for sure. That's the first time I was here. And they just keep putting up high-rise apartments, condos. I feel like everyone in Canada does live in like just a little line near the border. If you should pull up a map. I could probably do it for you, but you should pull up a map of the population density in Canada, and it's all just a dark line across the border and then a couple of frozen people up north. It's all right here. So the only way to build is up. I think it's turning into Tokyo. They're only a few letters off. R-O-N. Anyway, you watch the people here, and I know they gotta go through a different checklist when they leave the house every day. I'm not a high-rise living person, right? I've never lived in New York. I imagine it's like that there. But I have visited some places where I've stayed in hotels that didn't have working elevators. I went to Korea, and I remember it had to have been 2000. So it's pre-2008 because I was smoking. Probably 2006. We were in Seoul. It was me and my buddy JR. And I remember the elevator was broken in our hotel, and I was smoking cigarettes, and the window wouldn't open. And I was like a chain smoker back then. So I was going downstairs once an hour probably. And if you forgot your lighter or your cigarettes, or I had a phone, but maybe your phone, maybe you didn't. It didn't work over there. Not then. But if you forgot something important, you had to traipse all the way. We were like on the 21st floor or something. So stupid. I felt like by the time I got back upstairs, I wanted another cigarette, right? Except I was out of breath, so I had to take a break. That's probably why I only did it once an hour. But I couldn't live like that. That was like a week in Seoul. 3 days, maybe. Every day I had to go downstairs, even with an elevator, because the repetitive nature of it would totally mess with me. But it's life, right? You go downstairs with your little basket, you walk down to the Loblaws, you get a bunch of groceries, you put them in your basket, you walk it all the way back home. Nobody uses grocery bags. They put all their stuff in their own little, like grocery luggage. We don't have any of that. We just throw all our stuff in our bags, throw it in our car, drive it all home. How does your frozen stuff stay? Oh, because everything's frozen up here. Y'all just don't eat ice cream in the summertime? Is that how it works, Canada? This isn't even this. I thought I was drinking Tim Hortons. I'm drinking hot black coffee. There's one up the street here in Toronto. I've been drinking Tim Hortons every single morning. It's a good country. I've been coming to Ontario since 2008. Calgary I've been doing for close to a decade too. That's one of my favorite. I hadn't been up there since the pandemic. We keep trading conversations about dates. I don't even go to Calgary for the comedy, to be perfectly honest. I go do comedy in Calgary to pay for hiking trips. If you've ever seen me in Calgary, it's some cool. I got some good. Calgary's been good to me in terms of contacts and people and stuff. I had dinner here in Toronto with some really good friends on Saturday. A really good friend and his wife. That was beautiful. It's good to see you. Next time, bring your brother. But Calgary, man, there was a girl in Calgary that I took a trip the first time I went out to Banff. In fact, that's how I knew about Banff. I went up, this was forever ago. She's long since married, I think. Anyway, this girl and I remember driving out on because I always go during the summer. It's always like June or July. I put the emphasis on that word differently every time I say it. July. But I remember it was this crystal clear day. She had the sunroof open. We were listening to the 1975. And we went out to the Ink Pots. Yeah, you get some good days, Canada. I did. So now I do when I go to Calgary. My favorite hikes now. I've done the Ink Pots a couple more times. That's off. Like there's Johnston's Canyon, which you can pull off and go hike down. And if you go past the easily accessible parts of the canyon where all the tourists go, and it's all crazy busy, but there's a cool little ledgy walk through the waterfalls. But if you go past all that, you end up out at the Ink Pots. I got pictures of it, probably on my website. But my favorite hikes if you go out to Lake Moraine. There's Lake Moraine, Lake Louise, both of which incredibly popular. Lake Louise, you've seen tons and tons of pictures of. It's always got the lake going back, and then there's a mountain pass back here, and sometimes you can see the canoe rental place off to the left, and it photographs really well because it's got this big wavy Canadian flag, and it's bright red and white. Y'all got a beautiful flag, and I now know after wandering around your country during the fall why the red maple leaf is your symbol, because they're everywhere and they're just eye-popping and stupidly beautiful. So good choice. I don't know what else you were going to choose. A beaver, a hockey player, none of that looks good on money. But my favorite hikes now, I go to Lake Moraine. And Lake Moraine doesn't look real. If you Google Lake Moraine, it's the Valley of the 10 Peaks. So you have this, I don't know the mineral runoff content, but whatever minerals come down from the mountains almost dye the water a turquoise, unrealistic blue. It looks like the saturation's been turned up in your eyes. You kind of tap yourself on the head to make sure you're seeing what you're seeing. And my favorite thing to do would be to wake up, because Calgary's like 2 hours south of Banff National Park. Jasper's even north of that. And I want to go up there and spend some time. But you wake up at like 3:30, and this is what I would do every day when I was in Calgary. I would I would wake up at like 3:30 or so in the morning. I'd go gas up my rental. I'd drive 2 hours north to Lake Moraine, and then I'd go or like somewhere, and then I would sit there and watch the sunrise, and then I would be all energetic before the tourists got there because it's super peaceful. This is one of those places like any tourist attraction you ever go to. You want to be the first one in. Machu Picchu, get there. I don't care how early you got to wake up in Aguas Calientes. Get on your little bus, trek it, whatever you're doing. I don't care what you're doing. Be the first one there because as soon as the sun rises, every place you love looks like someone kicked an ant bed. It's just covered in people. Tikal, when I was, me and BC, my buddy BC, we were down in Guatemala and we went to Tikal and we got there at like 5 a.m. and we were the first ones through the gate. And it was so unbelievable having this ancient site. I mean, to yourself. You saw no one until we were leaving at like 9 a.m. And then you got your whole day ahead of you. Is traveler tip. But Lake Moraine is no different. About 8 o'clock in the morning, they start unloading buses of tourists. And when I say unloading buses, Moraine from this angle, when you take the picture, it looks like you wandered back into the ancient Canadian wilderness. Some Revenant shit. But the truth is, you can drive right up to it and then walk about 12 feet and you're there. So the only way to get it to yourself is during certain parts of the year when it's open, and then you got to go super early, and it's so worth it. And then from there, you can have Lake Moraine to yourself, be you, one photographer. It's all quiet. You hear birds whistling. The sun starts dripping gold on the mountaintops. That turquoise water. It's totally surreal. And then after a peaceful cup of coffee there's a little gift shop even. You drink your coffee, load up on snacks. Winkchemna Pass is my favorite hike. There's Sentinel Pass. There's Winkchemna Pass. There's the Larch Valley. All of those trailheads come out of Lake Moraine. And there's it'll talk you out of it. You got to go through like these 9 or 10 long-ass switchbacks to get up to the top of that mountain. And your thighs will be burning. Your legs will be hurting. That's what happened to me when I took that trip with the girl in the ink pots. That might have been when I started my photography career. I bet that was the first trip I took real pictures, to be perfectly honest. And I know why, because she was in such amazing shape. She's like a yoga instructor or some shit. And I was this was like 2008 or 9 me. I was not, it might have been later than that. But I wasn't in great shape. I just remember I'm taking pictures every time I would get all, because the altitude and the ups and downs. And I didn't want to be like, I can't keep up. So I was just like, I got to take pictures. Anyway, I was sitting here reminiscing. It's not what this show's about. I'm working through my new show while I'm here. And one of the things that I started working on this show was a bit about spiders. And I have to go back and see which episode it was. I'll put it in the show notes. But it wasn't too many ago. It might have been episode 15, 16, 17. I was talking about how many spiders we eat in our sleep and the myth of it. And I decided to take it to the stage. And this is, if you're a stand-up comic and you're trying to figure out how you're going to work out material, specifically if you're working out longer bits, I think this is kind of something I've stumbled on. So I don't know, but it's working for me. There's something about the auditory linking of saying something out loud and then being able to recreate it later, right? I memorize things horribly. I don't know how actors do it when you memorize monologues. I write an hour of stand-up myself, and I wrote it. I know the words, and I can't remember the order even, much less all the words. I can barely remember the outline. So it helps for me to kind of run through material on a show like this and then I can later on it's easier to recall. So I ran these ideas about eating spiders when I was sleeping, and then I took it and I brought it out here to Toronto along with the rest of this hour, and all of it's there's so many other pieces that have been developed on this show that have now made it to the stage. Almost this entire new hour is based on things that have come up on this show. So if you're a fan of my stand-up anyway, this is a great place to see it as it starts, and then to eventually see it on stage and eventually in a special. This particular bit, though, I thought you might enjoy. I'll put the link for sure down in the show notes. It'll take you right over to the episode and the specific starting points. You don't have to do any messing around. But watch that, and then watch this, and you can see how the bit kind of came together. You were fantastic, Toronto. Here's the bit. I'll be back to wrap up the episode in a second.
But if you know it, just yell it out. Be quick. How many spiders does the average person eat in a year? 12. Shit, you spider murdering motherfucker. That is a 12. That's a bold statement. 5. I heard 8. I heard another 8. That's all right. All right, we got some numbers. It's not the Price is Right. Relax. Everybody, the correct answer is 0 spiders. 0 spiders. All of you. Conventional wisdom says you eat 8 spiders in your sleep every year. You know this stat. But no one thinks this shit through. No one thinks. How many spiders are you not eating that are walking across your face? These are just the ones that. I know. That's when but no one questions it. Think of one, spiders are deathly afraid of wet, moist, dark places. And your mouth is, have you seen you sleep? Have you watched you? And is that an inviting space for a spider? I'll go in there. What sort of suicidal spider must it be? So maybe one spider. Hi, I'm Brown Recluse, and welcome to Jackass. I got that. But these spiders just walking across your face. If you're eating 8 a year, that means you're eating a spider every 46 days. That means one is falling in your mouth every 46 days. How many are making it across your dumb face? That's the ones you eat. Just the accidental death spiders. That's not the spider. How many spiders do we kill a fucking year? 8 a person times what? 7 billion? That's 56 billion spiders. We're murdering just with our mouth holes. Not the ones you whack with a shoe or that you see on the floor and shoot with fuck. I'll use Windex and it'll go under the couch. It'll be clean. Maybe it'll die in a couple of days. Fuck it, we'll move. Not those spiders. Just the spiders.
So the most fun part of that bit has been trying to figure out how to get into it, right? Because you want to. But I still don't know that I'm getting into it the right way. I'm asking the audience how many, but I'm baiting you. Just know that the way I ask the question makes you think it's anything greater than 0, and that's important when the answer is 0. It's I apologize for all of the psychological warfare that we as comedians inflict upon you, but we do it because we have to. Before I get out of here, I want to revisit these colors. Here in lovely Ontario. I went through, what is the name of the cemetery? Mount Pleasant Cemetery here in Toronto today. And it's a wonderland. I know it's full of dead people, but I think they smile upon people who visit there. It's one of the most peaceful places I could ever imagine being buried. If any part of your physicalness hangs on around here, and even if it doesn't, and you want to leave it to something that's going to be more beautiful, that's a wonderful place to go. It's like an arboretum with headstones. Earlier this week, I went down to the University of Toronto, the uni, and if you're a traveler and you find yourself in Toronto, there is a rare book museum. Is it Thomas Fisher? Why do I not write anything down? The something Fisher. I almost said Danny Fisher. It's definitely not the Danny Fisher Library. It's the Fisher Library. It's the rare book library at the University of Toronto. It's not widely publicized. But if you are into this sort of thing, and I don't know that you are, but it's a treasure trove of things that you'd never get to lay eyes on. I went for a copy of Alice in Wonderland. They have several versions, early prints, illustrated versions. If you're a historian of the book, you know how many different versions there are, especially the illustrated versions. There's one published in, I think, 1968, which doesn't sound like a long time ago if you're a Xennial or Gen Xer or Millennial or whatever we are. If you're a boomer, you have 68 was yesterday. But that's, 50, 60, 50, almost 55 years ago. Jesus. So this one is illustrated by Salvador Dali. And they let me read it. I got to go sit out there in a reading room, this big cushion, and flip through these huge unbound pages. Salvador Dali's handwritten. It's luxurious. And then they had the notes from, this is the other thing I wanted to see, of the youngest, what was his name? Bunting? Frederick Bunting? I should look that up. I'm definitely going to feel stupid if I'm wrong about that name. He invented insulin. And he was from here, so they have all of his stuff. And it's a bunch of handwritten notes from like 102 years ago. And research data and graphs on 100-year-old graph paper. And dog 408 died of the diabetes. The diabetes, bud. He ate too many coffee crisps. What a remarkable day. And I went and slept under this maple tree right there in Queen's Park. I went down to see the Ontario Legislature building, which is where Rush's Moving Picture, the cover for Rush's Moving Pictures was shot there. So I went to go take my little, ode to. Been here, done that. I like Rush. I like a lot of Canadian music, I think. I like Rush. It should be easier to come up with more bands than this. I love Alanis Morissette. That's not a lie. I really, 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 really like the Tragically Hip. That's Frozen REM. I like them. Rest in peace, Gord Downing. From Kingston, Ontario. And another city I visited and spent a lot of time in as I spill my coffee. I miss Kingston. That club just closed. I used to go down there and hang out. Oh, it's such a wonderful, wonderful place. And the Tragically Hip are from there. I believe Dan Aykroyd is from there or lives there now. And the Glorious Sons, God damn it, one of the best rock and roll bands I know. And I'm sorry you can't come to the show because I'm not there this year. And the show I was going to do, y'all were in Toronto. And then the pandemic. So if you don't, you should listen to the Glorious Sons if you don't know who they are. They got a great album out. I am off to Ottawa. That is my due. I will be headed there this week. You can catch me all week, Ottawa. I am at Absolute Comedy down in Little Italy. 100% chance I will spend my days at Dow's Lake in the Dominion Arboretum just up the street. I got to go down to, is it De Lorenzo's? Is that the name of the sandwich shop? There's a little Italian sandwich shop. Makes the best damn sandwiches you've ever had in your life. I hope there's still some color on the trees when I get there. Thank you guys for helping me work out material. As always, thanks for watching the genesis of it and the progression and evolution of it. I am available on all things at Slade Ham, although I check almost none of them. My YouTube channel, the best place to catch me. This audio version on Spotify and all things podcasts. You guys are the best as always. In Canada, I love you, bud. See you guys soon.